Hi, I'm Janice Switlo, and I'm going to carry on today with a little bit of reflection of the Canada of 1887, in which Wilfrid Laurier thus came to high and responsible position, was a Canada very different from the land of promise familiar to young Canadians of the present generation, and that present generation being 1916. It was a Canada seething with restlessness and discontent. The high hopes of the fathers of Confederation had turned to ashes. On every hand, men were saying that Federation had failed, that the new nation of their dream had remained a dream. At Confederation, men had hoped that the Dominion would take high place in the Empire and among the nations of the world. Yet, 20 years later, Canada remained unappreciated and unknown. In Great Britain, she was considered a colony which had ceased to fulfill the principal functions of the traditional colony, and which would probably someday go the way of all colonies. In the meantime, the country was simply ignored, alike in official and in private circles. In the United States, in those quarters where Canada was given a thought at all, curious misconceptions existed of her subordination to Great Britain, of her hopelessly Arctic climate, and of her inevitable drift into the arms of the Republic. Elsewhere abroad, Canada was a barren land of ice and snow, about as interesting and important as Kamchatka and Tierra del Fuego, and other outlying odds and ends of the earth which one came across in the atlas but never thought of otherwise. 20 years earlier, glowing pictures had been painted of the new heights of honor and usefulness which the new Dominion would afford its statesmen. The hard reality was the Canada of gerrymanders and political trickery, of red parlor funds and electoral bribery. The canker affected not one party alone, as the fall of Mercier was soon to show. The whole political life of the country to sank low and stagnant levels, for it appeared that the people had openly condoned corruption in high places, and that lavish promises and the glad hand were a surer road to success than honest and efficient administration. Call me a hopeless romantic, but I believe that we can have honest and efficient and cooperative relations. I do not believe that the present approach to attempting to resolve the quote-unquote Indian problem is to apply those kinds of tactics to individual Indigenous nationals. There can be no mistaking the willingness to hand over multiple millions of dollars without any checks and balances, without any official opposition, with Indigenous nationals being unable to serve as a check and balance because they don't have their own private law firm. They don't have their Department of Justice lawyers to act as their fiduciaries and protect them in all dealings. And as the trustee of monies, to simply hand it over, knowing full well that these go into a conversion process with the help of lawyers, converted into the private assets of the hands of a few, leaving the vast majority of Indigenous nationals on reserve in particular with no hope, with requiring more support and more dependency on Canadians as a whole. This is not an effective strategy. It may well purport to paper trail that Canada has acquired finally underlying title for the Crown, but it's a short-term, misleading venture. This is not going to stick. And in the meantime, it's just making things worse. But I guess, what more can you expect when this was the whole foundation of Canada to begin with? It's just carrying on, doing what it always has done. And I put it to you, that's just not good enough. And that's all I have to say.